I'll continue to work the Camaro to try to see if I can get this engine to start. But at the moment, what I've been working on is cylinder number 5 had a lot of rust coming out. I think I already showed you that. This is a shot looking through a mirror, an angle mirror, looking at the spark plug hole opening of number 5, and you can see the amount of orange rust around it. I'm going to try to bring the piston up a little higher, turn the engine over by hand, and see. When you get the piston to the top, you see that it's all, you can kind of see it coming up there. It's pretty orange on top. Every time it comes up, it brings up a batch of rusty looking stuff. So I'm going to continue to try to flush that out. I don't know how deep it goes into the cylinder wall. My guess is that this engine's in trouble and won't ever run again, but I'm going to try to flush it out, change the oil, crank it over, and see whether I can blow some of that out of there, and maybe whether I can get a compression check and see if that cylinder has any compression. So at this point, I've got a transparent plastic hose fed down in through the spark plug hole into the cylinder with a funnel in the end, and I've got a partial gallon jug of WD-40 here, and I'm going to try to do is fill the cylinder up. Hopefully I can hear if it starts to run over. Got a pan underneath. I'll run about a quart down into the cylinder and get a look with my mirror and see if I can see whether anything's coming back out, or if I've managed to get enough past the rings that it's leaking down into the pan. Can't tell for sure. But I certainly did put a quart in. That should be more than enough. There's my tube. Let's see what I got here. At this point, I'm going to try to roll it over. Got a shot there at the spark plug hole. And if the camera would just focus a little better, it's not doing real well. I can see that I've got some coming back out the hole. So let's take another look at this here. I'm going to roll continue rolling that cylinder back up. As I do, I'm getting a pretty good flood of, a gush of WD-40 out the hole. That gave it a pretty good flush. Ratchet around, pull it back up the other way. So I'm getting more and more of the sludge coming out, and focus in on that mirror again. And kind of get a look that it's getting a little bit more clear as it comes out. I'm still trying to get a little bit more out of there. but it held a bunch of the stuff in the cylinder. I'm bringing it up and rinsing it out. I'm gonna keep this up for a couple more tries because I got a pretty good rinse on that. Okay, ready to start. Try to see if this engine will crank over. I've been pulling it through by hand using penetrating oil, and tried to flush out cylinder, what was that, 5 with WD-40 multiple times. I drained the oil and refilled it, put only about 3 quarts because the car's not going to move, but put 3 quarts of fresh oil in it. Disconnected the power to the distributor so I don't get any stray sparks, and I know at this stage that the fuel pump seems not to be working, so I won't have any fuel because the fuel pump's not coming up. So now we're going to go give it a try and see if I can get it to roll over. Right now all I have is a click of the starter solenoid. The starter doesn't want to turn the engine. Starter doesn't sound like it wants to engage. So I'm going to do some checking here on battery terminals and some diagnostics and be back. I've tightened the battery cables. They were not as tight as they could have been. We'll give this a second try now. Well, after about a dozen tries, maybe 2 dozen tries, just kept clicking the starter solenoid. The starter motor finally engaged, and I was able to spin it over. And now I'm going to try to take a look and see if I can find anything. You know, did we throw out any of the crud that was coming out of number 5? Let's see if we got a. Well, there's a fair amount of junk here on the towel. Put paper towels down to see if anything would come out. So far it looks like only that one cylinder provided some of the debris to come out. Look over here on the other side. Looks pretty doggone clean at this point. Don't see much. So we did blow out some of the junk. And this is more greasy than rusty. There's a little grit in it, but it's feels mostly like grease. Okay, have the compression gauge installed. We're going to give it a shot here and see if we can get some compression. I've thrown a few ounces. I only want to do this once. It was really hard getting compression gauge fed in there. Had to chase the threads with a spark plug to get the crud out first. And I put about, oh, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 ounces of 30 weight down in the cylinder. So I got one shot. If it doesn't make compression with oil, it won't make compression at all. We'll give her a shot here. Gauge reads Zippo. Did I get anything? Well, I'll have to check the tape and see whether there's anything there. Well, after looking at the tape, I could see that I did have some compression. It looked like it got maybe near 60. The compression gauge has a valve to keep it from bleeding down, but I may very well be blowing rusty crud into it, which was kind of my fear. But I'm going to give it a second try just for a good measure. Give it a second attempt, and then I can decide from there. Well, we'll still have 0 shown on the gauge, so it's bled back down. I'm going to take a check and see what this looks like. I'm going to try the compression test again. When I checked, I actually found that the compression gauge had backed out of the threads. It must not have been in all the way, and actually, it may have been cross-threaded. It's very, very difficult to get that threaded in properly. But I spent a few minutes, I tried again, got a little different angle on it, and I think I have it fully threaded in this time, although I thought I did before. So let's give it another try, see if this one works any different. Once again, I'm going to check the tape and see what I got. So the answer seems to be no compression in that cylinder. And after all this work to get it broken loose, the answer, it looks like that cylinder is dead, and I'm working on an engine pull. But that's what I needed to know. So what you can see is after, what is it, 26, 27 years, sitting in a garage not turning, most of the cylinders seem to be in pretty good shape, but this one's not, and that's what happens when you don't prep an engine with and oil the cylinders and so forth and leave it sit. It's kind of a shame, but the next challenge will be what do I put in to replace it? Whether I put in repair this 305 or get a new 350 or maybe a 383. I'd really like to keep the tune port injection pieces and see what I could do there, but I have to go shopping.